Hey guys, I'm Voylin, and in today's video I want to talk about how expensive is it to live in Japan. When I moved to Japan in 2020, I've been keeping track of all our expenses of me and my wife, because we're married, our money is shared. So I have kind of a good understanding about how much money we spend for each thing, like rent, utilities, phone bills, food. I've been keeping track of everything, so I know how much we have spent the past couple of years. I'll mainly be talking about how expensive it is for us to live in Japan, so for 2 adults and a kid, so for 2.5 person. We live in Osaka, that's also something to mention, because rent and the amount of supermarkets with cheap foods really depend on which area you live in. If you live in Tokyo, you'll probably pay more. If you live in the very Inaka side, like the countryside, you'll probably pay more for food as well, because you don't have as many options. Really depends on where you live. These prices will all go about our family of 2.5 person. And to make this video a little bit better to watch, I made a... It takes some time. I made a... PowerPoint! Is living in Japan expensive? How does this work again? The short answer is... yes. But also no. To be honest, I've only ever lived alone here in Japan, so I can only say, like, I don't have anything to compare it against. I never lived alone in Belgium, so I don't know those prices. Also, I'll be talking, all prices that I'll be talking about will be in Japanese yen. Because the exchange rates are very much going up and down, it's kind of difficult to put a good price on it, so it's just... You can do the money exchange yourself, but if you're watching this video, you're probably planning on moving to Japan, or you're already living in Japan and you want to compare your monthly costs. Yeah, putting it in Japanese yen is probably the best thing anyway. So let's do some math. For rent, we pay around 90,000 Japanese yen. That is for this apartment that we live in now. So we have 2 rooms, nice kitchen, big kitchen, and a very big living room. Our previous apartment, and I also did an apartment tour about that one, was a 1-room apartment, so the living room was our bedroom and our kitchen. And for that we paid 80,000. This one is only 10,000 yen more expensive. Here in Japan, you mainly pay for convenience, especially if you live close by the station or far from the station. Say our last apartment, 1 room, all 80,000 yen. This apartment now, 90,000 yen. And that is to be living in kind of busy Osaka. So to live in busy Osaka paying this amount of money, it's kind of reasonable, especially like with all the convenience that is around here. The supermarkets, the malls, the train station, everything is close by. So rent can be a lot lower, like you can easily find places to live alone for 60,000 yen, or like for 2 people if you don't need that much space for like 70,000 yen, maximum 80,000 yen. But if you have a kid, you kind of need more run around space, especially for on rainy days. So yeah, we pay 90,000 yen. Next up, food, 40,000 yen. Our kid can eat normal food. So this is the price for 2.5 person. The price that me and my wife paid before we had a kid was around 35,000, so only went up by around 5,000 Japanese yen. This is enough for an entire month. Now to keep this price low, we go to multiple supermarkets, because some supermarkets have cheap vegetables, some supermarkets have cheap other things. We kind of compare prices and buy according to that. But we also don't really limit ourselves to only buying like the very cheapest products, like we still want to eat delicious meals. So yeah, this is our average. Next up, household items. With household items I mean like soap, laundry stuff and such, like all the cleaning supplies, shampoo, conditioner, yeah, all of that belongs to household items. Ooh. For that we pay around 5,000 Japanese yen, which is not a lot. We go for the more cheaper products, except for our laundry stuff, because we have a baby. Apparently you need to be a little bit careful with which soaps you use, so yeah. In total, 5,000 yen a month for household items. And then of course we also have phone bills. We pay around 6,000 Japanese yen, it's around 3,000 yen a person. Like all these prices are rounded up to like an even number so it's easier to do the math. 6,000 yen a month for 2 phone plans. I don't really use my phone that much. Yeah, especially outside of the house, I will barely use any internet. I have 3 gigabytes of data and I only use 300 megabytes. It's really a waste of money, but they don't have any lower plans here that are decent, because here you have to worry about connectivity. Like a lot of plans don't have decent connectivity in certain areas. I hate phone companies. I used to work in a call center for a phone company in Belgium, and that was the most terrible experience because you literally have to steal money from people. So I hate this, but I cannot do anything about it. But yeah, overall you will be around 3,000 yen a person if you want a phone plan here in Japan. Next up, utilities. With utilities I mean water, gas, electricity and the internet, because internet and electricity are under one plan. And in total we pay around 20,000 Japanese yen. Our internet is around 3,000 yen, but if you're lucky, your apartment will probably come with free internet, and then you just have to hope that it's not a kind of bad internet. We have a fiber cable running around here, but a lot of places here in Japan do offer free internet, so that's kind of good. Water, gas, electricity, those costs vary a lot, especially during winter and summer. You will use air conditioning a lot more, so electricity goes a lot higher, goes a lot lower during autumn and spring. Same for gas. Water consumption greatly increases when you have a baby. So this 20,000 yen is the average a month when I combined all months from January to December from the past 2 years. So this is our average, 20,000 Japanese yen, which is still quite reasonable. We have 3 air conditionings in total. We have one in this living room, we have one in the hobby room, and we have one in the bedroom. So even with that much consumption, also my PC, for example, which kind of consumes a lot of electricity as well, we still end up with a total bill for all utilities for only 20,000 Japanese yen a month, which I don't think is a lot, but again, I don't have that many things to compare it to. And next up, baby stuff, because babies like eating their diapers. We pay around 6,000 yen a month. It's not a lot, but this price basically includes baby snacks, baby clothes, diapers. It includes all things that we spend each month for our kids. Many people probably don't have a baby to worry about, or if you do, like, this is our average. I just want to include it into the price because this is about our expenses. Another thing that I did not mention here is paperwork. Paperwork in Japan can get quite expensive. And that's basically because I'm a foreigner living in Japan with a Japanese wife, and we have a kid which is half Japanese. Some months you have to pay around 5,000 yen, other months you only need to pay like 10 yen for paperwork. It really depends, and if you're a foreigner living in Japan, be prepared to kind of pay a lot of money for paperwork. Then there are also taxes. Normally your company pays your taxes, so you don't really have to worry too much about that, except for when you earn money outside of your job, then you have to do those things yourself. And my wife took maternity leave for 1.5 years, and because she does not get her money from her company anymore, she gets it from the government, she had to pay her taxes herself, which are around 7,000 to 8,000 yen a month. So that's also something that you need to take in mind if you plan on taking maternity leave or paternity leave. But that amount also really depends on your income. And you live in Japan, so yay! You have to do the omiyage culture. If you go on a small trip, even if it's to your neighboring city, like we live in Kyoto and Osaka, if you go on a trip to Kyoto, your colleagues expect gifts from you. Yeah. So on average we spend kind of a lot of money each year on gifts, and it can be as cheap as only Gosen yen for gifts, but there have also been some times that we go on a far trip and that we need around 30,000 Japanese yen for gifts. Going on a trip is already expensive, but going on a trip in Japan is even more expensive because of all the gifts that you need to buy, because that's just the culture here. If you don't really go traveling a lot, or you don't really have any friends or colleagues that you get along with well, then you also don't need to count that. I'm not counting it on this list because it really depends on person by person. I have to check on my phone because there are quite a couple of things. Then there's also travel costs. Traveling in Japan is very convenient, especially if you take public transportation. You may notice that I don't have a car written down in the costs, and that's because we don't own a car. Because owning a car in Japan or anywhere else in the world, it's kind of expensive. So we decided not to have a car. I got myself a bicycle, and recently my wife got a bicycle, and for that bicycle we also got a baby seat, so now we can basically go anywhere we want to in a radius of 5 to 10 kilometers without any problems and without having to pay. Because bicycle parking here, it's quite abundant. You can park your bicycle almost anywhere. There are many places where you are allowed to park your bicycles. Compared to when you own a car, you have to pay everywhere. Even if you go to the supermarket, some supermarkets want you to pay if you stay for longer than 30 minutes or longer than 1 hour. So yeah, overall transportation, if you go by train or public transportation anywhere, you can get almost anywhere, except for if you live in the countryside. But if you live in a city like Osaka or Kyoto, you basically won't have any problems with public transportation, and it will be a lot cheaper than owning a car. For this video, I just want to talk about the base cost, and that's rent, food, household items, phone bills, utilities, and baby stuff. All those other expenses are basically all extras. And that brings us to a monthly cost of 167,000 Japanese yen, which is not that much if you know that this price is to live in Japan with 2.5 persons, so 2 adults and a baby. And another small thing that I forgot to mention, let's quickly go back. Your rent is, for example, for us it's 90,000 yen, so our total costs is this, but every 2 years, 3 years you need to renew your contract and you need to pay a fee for that. Same when you start living here in Japan, you need to pay kind of like a thank you fee to your apartment building for being able to rent that apartment. You don't get that money back, and it's kind of annoying. It's kind of a big amount of money, but that's just Japanese culture. So if you start living in Japan, this is your monthly cost, but there are occasional things that you cannot escape from, and that's the thank you money for apartments and the renewal cost of apartment contracts. So yeah, that was everything. I hope you found this video kind of useful if you're planning on moving to Japan. This is around the monthly cost that you'll be expecting if you live cheaply. Of course, this is for 2.5 people. If you live alone, you'll probably pay a lot less. And even when owning a baby, even when you have a baby, costs really don't increase that much because you get a lot of support from the government. So yeah, I hope you find this interesting. If you move to Japan, monthly cost. If you already live in Japan and you want something to compare against, we live in Osaka. This is around the average cost to live in Osaka according to our money management stuff. So yeah, thanks for watching and good luck living in Japan.